Okay, guys, welcome back to another Ghost Trader video. Today we're going to go over about five names: Apple, Game, OPFI, and ATAI. And we'll see what they kind of what they look like here. Let me share my screen. Sharing is caring. Let's see here. Put this in front of me. Let's see if I can put that in front of me here. Um, So I'll stop looking to the left. There we go. Let me move this out of my way. Let's get some glasses on. As always, I tell you guys to really want to look at the stock in all time frames because it helps with you understanding where the stock may or may not go. So I
Hold on
like,
one second. You're not
okay,
sharing uh, your
not
graph.
sharing the graph. Let's
I
try
see Ghost Trader, the logo.
Ghost Trader. Let's try that one more time. Sharing.
There we go.
We got it. We're cooking with oil. You guys know I'm technically challenged sometimes. Let's see here. No, 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 no. Okay, so the good book teaches us to look at the stock at all time frames because our perspective is five times greater, depending on which way we go. So I always like to look at monthly, weekly, daily, and hourly. All of them are a bit of a factor of five or 4.33, one or the other, really close between four and five. So if I'm looking at a daily chart, my perspective is five times greater if I look at a weekly chart. So having said that, we'll start with where we're at, ATAI. Not sure what industry they are in. I always like to take a peek. Doug, do you know what industry they're in?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay, no
Um,
worries. I know you've looked at some of these names a little bit. So life sciences up 23%, tracked highest close since January 2023. So over 2.5 years, they're tracking pretty good. 2-year high on positive trial results, 50 million in financing. Um, I'd like to just kind of see, let me click on that bit of news and read what was being said. Can you see the press release on my screen?
I can.
Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly kind of read through it from my own knowledge. 32% 290 trading ahead. Psychedelic therapies. Yeah, I'm familiar with some of those. Potential drug treatment resistant for depression and alcohol use disorder met its primary and key secondary endpoints. Okay, let's see if got some a private placement from an investor. Um, Investor agreed to purchase 18 million plus ordinary shares. To the finance expecting results. And so they're raising $50 million and for general corporate purposes, company product candidate and programs. And then you can lean into some of that news. So we got some good results. We got 50 million in financing. I'm looking for as a private placement, so we probably don't have any sort of price. You're just buying the shares, and those shares typically are restricted for a certain period of time. So we would not be concerned about dilution, but let's just make sure nothing else jumps up. Um, Bought some pre-funded warrants to purchase roughly 4.6 million additional shares. So they sold 18 million shares of ordinary shares, and then it says a nominal value of 10 cents euro or 12 cents, I guess, US. So they're buying the shares at a very steep discount. And they got financing, of course, there, and then they also sweetened the pot. It says they have some pre-funded warrants to purchase roughly 4.6 million shares, or almost 5 million more shares. So the warrants are like a sweetener. It really is. You're buying the right to buy the shares at a certain price for a given date, almost like an option. And there's a fee that's associated with it, as far as a transaction fee and whatnot. So anyway, you're looking at potentially 23 million more shares. So then that would make me think, well, how many shares do they have outstanding? So if you guys at home are following along, I'm going to go to Yahoo Finance, because we always talk about um, technical and fundamental analysis. So I'm going to go to Yahoo Finance, and I'm going to just see how many shares they currently have outstanding. Go ATAI. It's in a interesting space as far as drugs that try to do something to the mind to prevent you from doing whatever drugs you were looking at doing, or alcohol problems. Could be a huge, huge opportunity for these guys. Statistics, you may not be able to see my screen, but the float is 111 million shares, and then I'll put a question mark, another potential 30 million shares. So they're upping that by roughly, I don't know, 20 something percent. Got 8% insider ownership. So I typically do F for float, 111. That's how many shares float that's being bandied about to the public, the float. I'll put a /8 for insider and 33 for institutional ownership. Um, Take a look. They do have some cash. They about 98 million in cash and about 29 million in debt. Book value is 76 cents. And let's see, gross profit. Are we growing? Losing money operating wise. Return on assets is negative. Return on equity is very negative. But, when you're a biotech sort of company, drug sort of thing, uh, capital expenditures are pretty intense. It's good that they have cash, but I don't know if that cash is from that most recent raise of $50 million. So anyway, I get a sense of kind of where we're at, and I want to get a sense of the float is 100 plus million. What's the volume like compared to the float? Do we have enough volume to move the stock at all? So I will circle back to my charts. Do we see Thinkorswim back on the screen?
Nope, it's back on the screen. It's broken up into four segments.
Yes. So Thinkorswim, 4 segments of ATAI.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So we're back in business. So the first thing I always like to do, I'll put when I'm evaluating and thinking monthly, like I'll put MWD1 for monthly, weekly, daily, 1 hour. And the first thing I'm going to look at is, I'll make this bigger. Sometimes I'll leave all four up, especially if I'm trading live. I want to take a look at the monthly, the biggest picture. What is it telling me about this stock? And what I can instantly see that we were in a channel for a long time. And that channel is about, or trading range bound. We've been in a channel probably right in here on the high, and the low is about right in here at 103. I'll just extend this out about like so, a little bit high there. So 103. So then I'm looking for, what the volume looks like. And I see we have a volume spike here the week of the month of February. And I was just be curious to see what happened in February. So I go back and look. Um, they had an unwritten offering of 55 million. Sorry, they had a registered unwritten offering of 55 million shares. That language is interesting to me. I'll have to double check. Proposed offering worth 55 million. So they're constantly, at least at a quick look, issuing shares. They're raising money. Let me just see what that is. Okay. And make that bigger. So there, commencement of proposed registered underwritten offering of 55 million of its common shares, uh, acting as a sole book runner. Huh. So it looks more of like it's a proposal for a public offering. And so I don't know if this proposal is the one, commenced a proposed offering, yeah, is the one that recently hit. So I want to see, is that $55 million that they're raising with 8.2 million shares in February? Is that roughly the same one that's happening most recently? And so I don't see it, don't see it, don't see it, don't see it. And it's important for you to know because you don't want to get the feeling that they're constantly issuing shares. So that proposed offering is the one that got announced, looks like July 1st, 50 million again. So anyway, that looks to be the case there. And honestly, I went too fast and didn't see it. So now I'm going to get back into the chart itself. Are we back to the chart?
Yes.
Good. All right. So what I can see that there was a proposed offering, the stock ran up. There was some news somewhere in the month of February, some other news, and then the stock I can clearly see came back probably a 60% pullback from the high of the month where we eventually closed at 172. And you can see that just by eyeballing it. I'll make this bigger. Here's that month. You can clearly see from the top to where it closed, it is greater than 50% pullback. So we're back into I made this bigger, back into this range, the bottom around 105, the top just over 2 and some change. We're back in this trading range. I could buy it at 105-ish and sell it back when we start to push towards 2, buy it back when we come back low 1, sell it when we push back towards 2, and make some good money over so many months. And I could put an alert in, hey, alert me when ATAI is under, say, 115. And then I just trade it that way until such time you prove to me that you are able to go through resistance. So I'm going to slide back. I'm going to make all of this just a bit bigger so we can see it a little bit bigger. And what we see is that channel, this range we have been in since January of 2023. For more 2.5 years, this stock has been in a range. And then we tried to break out here and we tried to break out here. We were unsuccessful. But here is your ding, 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 winner, winner, chicken dinner. This stock needed to be bought right around the end of this month. We're closing the time frame of the month. If 209 is our marker, 209, 105% is roughly 219. And we needed a close of 219, 220 for the month. We got that at 231. Once I saw about 220, we were going to close that time frame pretty good. I might have taken a stab at it early before the actual month had actually finished when I recognized where resistance was. So when we started printing 220, maybe it's the third week of that particular month, I might say, it looks like we might be breaking out. I might go ahead and make my first purchase. And we were. Big, long, giant green candle for the month, real positive, real bullish. Then we got a nice little low risk sort of pullback. We started to go up, but we pulled back towards support, which is one of the absolute most perfect ways to buy a breakout confirmed with a pullback retouch. So this was resistance in here, and it's probably more like this. Now that we make it bigger and I can see my lines a little bit better, it's more like about probably right around there, about 195-ish. So maybe around, so call it 2 is 10 is 20, maybe 208-ish was the buy point because we really want to lean in to see where we were. So if I bought it there, then a couple of months later, we were cooking with oil and we've made some money. So if you currently bought it, there's a little bit of a tug of war going on here with the majority of the trading right here in this smaller body and longer wick, longer wick.
Yep.
We we're very early in the process. We're very early in the month, so I'm not bothered by it, but I might be hoping for a little bit of a pullback if I can get it. So if I take this corner and I do corner to corner, starting to go up, we're kind of right on this uptrend line a bit. But if I can get a pullback, it would be great. So monthly, I probably write down we're okay, kind of on TL for trend line. I've got GV for good volume this month, and I might put we're early in the process. And, fundamentally, I know that we just had some news and a merger partner. So I might, be like some recent news, merger partner. They raised 50 million in financing. So if someone's going to give me $50 million, they're probably pretty confident about what those endpoints were for their trials. So it looks pretty good. So then now I'm going to lean into the weekly, and I could label my monthly breakout if I wanted to. I would right click. I don't know which brokerage you're using, but I could put MO for the monthly line right here as far as that resistance. And I, of course, know that's resistance and, of course, support. So big volume spike I see here for the week. Nice strength heading up. So we had this run up, pull back, kind of double top here in this area. You see we topped, we topped, we topped, and we topped. So it going through this 235-ish range, 240 is positive. So from a weekly standpoint, I'm thinking, well, if I can get a pullback to that support, which would be, I'm just going to clear all this out. I'm going to look at initially I'm going to draw some corner lines for some multiple kind of uptrend looks. I'm going to right click and I'm going to create, I've got another system in front of me, so forgive me, another computer, drawing tools, and then I'm going to go to the finger right here. The finger allows me to pan over so I can move this screen over. So now I can go to my drawings because I got to undo the finger thing now and go back to the lines. I click on the line again, trend line, and then I want to extend this line out in case I plan on owning this for a minute. So each of these candles represents a week. So if we get into next week, here's our next candle. If this stock comes down to this trend line at 182, I might be interested in buying it. So I'll create an alert. Alert me if this stock trades, how about at or below 190? And I create that alert. If we're kind of coming down, here's my next week. If we get in this gray area right here near the trend line, it's probably pretty good value. Also, I see on the weekly look that the stock was in a bit of a range right here, and the top part of that range was right there. And we are right in here. So we were in this range for 5 weeks, and then winner, winner, chicken dinner. We broke out last week with the news and the financing and the results and all the rest of it. So my thinking is on the weekly, if I could get it weekly, I'll put like 185. I love it. And this is literally the language I'll use. I'll love it. I like it if it pulls back to what would be support right around here. Kind of like it maybe 247 to 250, kind of like it. And at the moment, do I like it well enough to buy it if I don't own it? Probably not, because we've had a run from $1.19 however many weeks ago to $3 that we hit. We've 2.5 times our money in however long this was here. So still, I don't know that I would enter it if I don't own it right this second. So now I'm going to look at the daily. I know that those are my weekly lines that are already up there. I know I was in a bit of a channel. I know I can see now with the weekly that the buy point also was with this downtrend that happened right in this general area. So we were in a channel We topped out again right in here because if you remember, if we go way back, this was resistance going way back to the left. This
Yeah.
area, we hit it 4 times. So buying this, we ran up, we pulled back about 40 something percent, but this downtrend within the channel on the weekly, I knew that the buy point was 230 right in here, and we gapped. We gapped up. We opened the day, because we're looking at a daily chart now, at 264. But then we pulled back to the low of 236, which would have been a nice buy point because it's back towards support. So anywhere in here. And then we closed pretty strongly up at 271. So then the next couple of days, we kind of topped out here. We opened at 296. We immediately pulled away from that because the high for the day was 296. I'll make this bigger. The high open was right here, this left corner. The high was 296, and we closed towards the low of the day. So now I'm also thinking, in this case, I usually like to use corner to corners, but it kind of jets us out a bit. In this scenario, I think I would be better served using the wicks. So I'll go a bit like this. And so on the daily, so Monday comes, if we start to shimmy down to, first of all, support, I might say daily SPT for support 249, and then uptrend second level-ish on the daily, maybe about 240. I'll say then 240. Um, and those would be the points where I would look at buying. I know there's heavy amount of should be support now because this was resistance for a long period of time, that 245-ish range. So I kind of like it if we hit 240, 9 to about 240. If I could get it, I would look to buy. If I bought it already at say 275 in this range, I would have to decide on whether I would be one who would be rebuying or adding to my purchase. So I'm going to lean into the hourly. Again, I'm going to kind of just clear the drawing set. I kind of know where the numbers lie. And so as you can clearly see, the hourly also tells you a story. And that story is also that we are in a channel. In fact, let me do this better. Click here, add a drawing, go to these two lines here, channel, and then I just go over here, left click, and just drag my thing down to the bottom of this channel, roughly is about right here, and left click again. So that went up, it makes it a lot easier. So clearly we're in a channel, and these little markers here, that must be for my stochastics fast, but they're showing where stochastics has turned down. I don't like them down, I need to have them up. So stochastics, as a reminder, is a leading indicator that helps you catch a turn in the market. And so all of this is top down, as you can see right here, stochastics top down. Stochastics, the red line was starting to come down below the purple line. It's indicating to you that it's probably going to be going down because of if we're starting top down and we're coming through this 80 line, it's indicating to you that we're probably going to go lower. And the reverse is true when stochastics breaks through the bottom up and with their algorithm and the numbers and all the rest of it, that chances are good we're going to start to go up. It's trying to help you catch the turn. So in this case, you can see stochastics coming up. This is last Friday. Stochastics was starting to turn, starting to improve. Hadn't quite made the turn yet, but right in here, we're still turning. And it wasn't but the very next Monday that we made the turn. By Tuesday, we made the turn. So you've got to pay attention to what your technical indicators are helping you with. And you have to segment the different time frames in your brain. Like, okay, big picture is doing this, but is the big picture about ready to go down versus the weekly? Is the weekly looking like it's about ready to come up? So if I'm trying to catch the ripple, if you will, that goes against the tide. How do they say it? Let me look it up. How do they say it? How do they say it? It's worth the 2 seconds of me looking at. Trading for a living. It's the triple screen trading. It's what I always use. It's a method, it's a style of trading. Trend following indicators rise during uptrends. A trend following indicator would be like moving average convergence and divergence histogram. So MACD histogram, and give buy signals when it's too much. We'll come back to it because then if you're not familiar with the technical indicators, then it'll get confusing. But time frames, factors of five, it says triple screen begins by analyzing the long-term chart, one order of magnitude greater than the one you plan on trading. So if you're trading the daily chart, you need to ensure that you look one magnitude greater at the weekly chart to help you understand what the bigger picture is telling you. So it says if you begin by analyzing the weekly chart, your perspective is 5 times greater than that of your competitors. And so it gets into how you can, for instance, let's I'm confusing you. Hold on. So if, like for instance, it says when the weekly trend is up, if we know ATAI, the trend is up, but the daily trend points towards a decline, it represents a buying opportunity. When the weekly trend is down, but the daily rallies point to shorting opportunities, then it's a whole other different situation. So in general, as I try to explain this, you're looking for the ripple, if you will, that goes against the tide. So bear with me still. First screen of the triple screen trading system identifies the market tide on the weekly chart. So let's just take a look at the weekly chart because Eugene Brown's going to confuse everybody. The weekly chart. What do we know? The weekly chart, it's up. So the first screen of the triple trading system identifies the market tide on the weekly chart. The second screen identifies a wave that goes against the tide, which is the weekly, on the daily chart. So do we have a wave that goes against the bigger picture? We do for the most part because we're waving down. So this is going against the bigger picture, which is up. The third screen identifies the ripples in the direction of the tide. So we're trying to find something, if we're looking at three different screens, do we have a ripple that goes against the tide? The big picture is ATAI is up. The daily, we may have the thing that is going against the tide coming down. And then within the minutia, I'm trying to find the ripple that is now in the direction of the bigger picture, which is the tide. So at the moment, I don't really see that, as far as this particular, if this were my third screen, what I see is that we're in a trading range. But if we start to come here, this would act as that ripple that is starting to get back to the direction of the bigger picture, which is the weekly tide. So I say all that to say in simple terms is, hey, if something is up and the trend is up, can you find a daily pullback that's going against the bigger picture? And then within the minutia on the lower time frames, can I find where the stock is about ready to start heading in the direction of the bigger picture? That's what you want to do. So that case was probably right. Let's look right here if this ever clicks on. Okay, we're waiting for the system to catch up. Doug, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, I've got a circle here for a second. We saw that ripple. We saw that wave, if you will, that went against the tide when we had that pullback to support that I talked about earlier. That is what the whole system is, part of the system is about. We're still spinning. Um, did that horrifying explanation make any kind of sense to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
if you want me to feed it back to you, basically, you have three screen system,
Hmm.
three chart system. The larger chart shows the wave or the trend in which the stock's going.
Hmm.
The second one is what the what the stock's doing in that daily instead of the weekly.
Hmm.
and it's either going with it or going against it.
We want to find it
So,
going against it.
right, you want to
Hmm.
find what's going against it.
Hmm.
And then the third, just go over the third chart again.
Yeah, it's leaning into a smaller time frame to find, once the weekly trend was up, the daily was giving you a pullback, but where can I find the happenings or the trading that is about in the direction of the bigger picture, if we're using weekly as our biggest picture, as our example, that is starting to break back towards the overall bigger picture, which is up. So I want to pull back if I'm going long and I want to pull back, I want that wave that goes against the tide that pulls back, that gives me that, hey, that thing broke out and it's been going up in the weekly. We came back to support that wave that goes against the bigger picture because it's been up for weeks. Now let me lean in a little bit. Where can I find where the exact sort of buy point is? And typically they'll tell you is say it's within the hourly. If it's starting to break out to start to head back towards the tide, which is the weekly, you want to ensure that that's happening, and you put this buy stop limit order right below. There's a couple of strategies in here. We'll get into it. I promise we'll get into it. But for argument's sake, let's just big picture pullback and try to get something that's heading back towards the tide. Triple screen trading. Been doing it for a long time, but some of um, the language I better lean into to make sure I've got that strategy. And I'll post the details when I post this video. So, and the reverse would be true, you guys, if you were going short. You believe the stock was going to go down, and so you just kind of reverse engineer it. The bigger picture, the thing was going down, the stock has been going down, and then you got this wave that went against the tide where the stock currently went up, but you knew that the bigger picture, this thing's going to be going back down. This is just a blip, and that's where I would be going short. I would short it with that wave that came back up. And we haven't got into shorting or any of that, so just disregard what I'm talking about. But at some point, we'll talk about shorting stocks, but not anytime soon. So let's go back to where's my screen? Let's get back to hopefully I didn't. I'm at the log back in, I think. Um, Let me get logged into Thinkorswim. Guess I clicked out of it. Let's see here. The system was acting funny, so it was spinning. So I had to close down for a second. So ATAI, if you own it or if you're looking at buying it, I would be, I would, have a plan to add if I liked it, if I liked what was being said. Higher risk name, not necessarily name, but industry. Um, Psychedelic stuff for the mind. I've seen plenty of those. I think CMND was one, MIND was another one. Um, Higher risk sort of um, names. So just be mindful of that. They can run hard or they cannot run. Let's see here. Let me log in. We're not gonna see here. Yes. So if you like it, Doug, at all, just decide that where you would buy it based on what we just went over. If you get a pullback to that 249-ish, 240-ish range, somewhere in there, uh, and then think about the numbers like, okay, if I bought it at whatever, 270 something, the pullback, what kind of percentage is that from where I initially purchased? Or, um, let's see, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Thinkorswim? Okay. Or it is if we look weak at all, it's to my right now. I apologize for looking right. Do I sell it? So in this case, on the hourly, Doug, and for all of you guys watching, you know we're in a range. We have been in a range since Tuesday. And so if I bought it at say 275, I may have a tight stop in here. Um, and I would also have an alert above this resistance area. So I might, in fact, I'll do it for myself. 289, alert me if this stock trades at 289 and also alert me if we trade below, say, 250. Create an alert and I'm going to put below. And then I'm also going to put a note to myself because I like to mark everything 240 to 249 SPT for support. And then it's right there. So I don't have to think about it. I already know that I've already looked at it. That's why my note is there. So not sure where we're heading. Technically, it's really not telling me a whole lot. We're a bit extended here because you can see, where we pull this run here from 140-ish to 250 is a heck of a gain in a matter of so many days. We pulled back about 40% from that run, and the buy point was right in here when we broke through this downtrend, so right around 230. So the folks that are in here at 140, you're going to find some selling because folks are up on their money. And if it starts to get weak in here, they're like, oh, it might be time for me to get out and take the money. So this comeback, if you will, to about, this was the resistance area. We kind of broke through it, then we went back below it. If we come back to anywhere near 220, I would also be more interested in buying it. And then I would certainly have to decide again, big picture, this is our tide. I know that major support now should be around this 215 to 220 range because we can see it top, 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 top. So 250 below 250, but then I'm also going to put an alert, create an alert right here. Not an alert. Yes, an alert. Hold on. How about 233? Create an alert. If we trade at or below, say 234, and I'm going to put a note that says, love at about 217, MAJ SPT, major support. So there. So that whole setup, and I could have done this a lot faster because I'm taking time to explain it to you. This evaluating what you need to do is very, very quick, and I'll chew through the information quickly. I'll think about what the fundamental stuff was telling me. I'm going to look at some other technical indicators that I can add, like I would add here about relative strength and where is, I don't know if necessarily I want slow RSI. I just want a regular RSI. Um, hmm, interesting. Rocket RSI. What I'm going to be doing, guys, is going through every single technical indicator, and I will post them if I think that they are, here we go, really relevant to evaluation. And I'm also going to do MSD, moving average. These are the four I like to have up, although I'm only showing, I don't know where the rest of them went. Let's see, MACD as well. MACD is a lagging indicator. It follows along with whatever is happening. But what I'm looking for with MACD, I'm looking for the tide, the wave that goes against the tide. So with MACD, moving average convergence, divergence, histogram, if the stock is going down, histogram typically is going down, it's getting weaker. I'm looking for, say, the stock is going down, but histogram is starting to go up, but the stock is still going down. It's telling me that, hey, this thing is about ready to change. You've got a bullish divergence. It's diverging from what should be happening as far as what you're seeing. So, and you see that here. So you see histogram's been going down. So this is getting weaker here. Uh, Histogram still going down there, but the stock has stopped. It's starting to go up. Histogram is still going down. You can look at the bottom. Can you see the bottom of this chart?
I do.
Yes. See histogram, the bars are still getting longer, but the stock is going up. So then
Yeah,
we flatten out. Histogram should be going down, but it's really not. It's getting stronger in here. It's not going the way you would think it should be going. It's getting stronger. So then it even went lower than this area right here. It went lower than this area, but look where histogram is. It's not long like this. It's telling you, hey, this thing's about ready to change. And winner, winner, chicken dinner, guess what happened? Just a few weeks later, boom, big pop. And so if you recognize that this is this is where you earn your money, the money you pay me, you're like, this alone will pay for the year. The bullish divergence that you are seeing in this one example would make you some money. We were weak and we were getting weak on histogram. And then we started to change right here. Wasn't going down, it was going sideways. And then we got even weaker, but histogram's like, no, we're getting stronger. And if you recognize that right in here at about 126, and you're like, huh, it seems like we held up in here and histogram was getting stronger when we were at $1.74. Because now it's about, Doug, and you guys listening, it's about the price. Histogram buyers, the tug of war between bulls and bears, the bulls were like, hey, this seems like a decent deal right around 170 to 175. And histogram was starting to bear that out. But then for whatever reason, we went even lower. But the Bulls were already telling you, hey, we like it here. And then we dropped down to 125-ish. Folks are still coming to get it. They're still eating. They're like, hey, we're eating. And then what you have is eventually an absence of sellers. And then all of a sudden you go, and you shoot up quite quickly. So if you said, okay, be stupid if you want to, sell it to me right here at 125, and you're still buying, and then you brought your average from 175 and you bought at 125, and if you did it right and you like the stock, what I would always tell you is you don't put all your eggs in one basket and you buy in waves. So the first purchase might have been whatever. We'll use 500 as an example. And then when you recognize, like, okay, this is stupid, and they're going down and it's getting stronger, I'm going to give it $1,000 right here. I'm going to double down at 125, providing you really liked everything else about it. Then you brought your average, from 175. You doubled down with $1,000. You probably brought it to 50 is 25 is 150, probably somewhere around 138. And then within 4 weeks, you're 138 average there back at 250. What is that? Two, 210 range. So 138, 210, we'll call it 140 is 60 is 70. 70 cents into your 140 average is 50% on your money. And just because you recognize technically the indicators helped you with that purchase. Also, you would have been able to see that there was an opportunity right here by looking at the chart. So when we combine fundamental analysis with technical analysis, chart patterns and everything else, you're like, this has got to be the buy right here. Thing is getting stronger. And if I coupled, let's see what stochastics gave us right here. What date is this? 3/20 of 2023. Let's see what stochastics said around there at 320 of 2023. Stochastics fast. 320 of 2023. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Look what we have here. See that?
Mhm.
Stochastics was already making the turn. Stochastics was making the turn right here, the day, 2 days before the break. Histogram was telling you, Doug, we're getting stronger. Stochastics from the bottom up, Doug, and also for histogram, it is more reliable. Make sure you get this in your brain, all of you guys listening. It is more reliable from the bottom up. From the bottom up. Whatever happens up here, histogram and whatever the bars are doing is not as reliable. From the bottom of this line, the 0 line on histogram from the bottom up, and below the 20 line on stochastics fast from the bottom up is where you want to take your cues from. So if you recognize this and it was on your radar on 313 that week, you're like, it's probably time to buy this thing. It closed at 122, and technically everything is telling you it's probably a buy. And then you got into next week, and we opened at 122 where we closed, and we're right on the line. You're like, well, we're right on the trend line, but stochastics is telling you, hey, we're probably going up. And histogram told you back in the back that folks liked it at 175. It's time to buy this daggone stock even more. And you bought it and you made a bunch of money. This is how you really lean into it. When I tell you guys the money is in the homework. If you do the homework, the money will follow you. Just focus on the homework. Don't focus on the money. The money will follow you. And hopefully, this is really a very good example to look at from a technical standpoint, from an indicator standpoint, from a support and resistance standpoint. All of it marries up. But you can't buy, you guys, a stock too high. It's got to make sure we're really breaking out. If breakout, going back on the weekly, big picture, the tide. About $2 in here was resistance. Ideally, you wanted to buy it at 210. We're a bit long in the tooth up here. There's a bit of tug of war going on, and I've already given you the pullback areas where you would consider buying more if you got caught buying up here too high, if you will. Doesn't mean the stock won't go higher. We've got some nice volume that came in, but you can clearly see there's a bit of a tug of war going on between buyers and sellers. We're like, okay, are we going higher? Are we not? Does that make sense? Questions about ATAI? Doug, you still there?
I'm still here. No
Yeah,
questions.
no questions. Okay, let's take a look at OPFI. We'll move a little faster. OPFI, Doug, you tell us what they do while I set up some lines. Give us what they do.
All right. Uh, what they do?
What do they do?
Uh, they're a basically a financial health survey um, type company.
A survey type company.
Yeah. Um, they
Survey.
do.
They're issuing surveys to other companies to see their financial health.
Yeah, their financials specialty on they're a specialty financial platform
Uh-huh.
that works with banks
Okay.
and other type of credit agencies
Mm-hmm.
for access um, for not just for banks or corporations, but for everyday people.
Okay. Um, Now expects full year 2025 adjusted earnings per share in the range of $1.18 to $1.26, up from its prior guidance of $1.06 to $1.07. Um, JP Morgan upgrades it price target to 13.50. We're already there. Uh, Stevens initiates equal weight price target 14.50. And in June, they said the financial health survey company shows modest gains amid vulnerable and economic anxiety. So if I get just the gist of what they're doing, they earn money, which is good. Uh, we can take a look. Let's take a look at their stats. Tell me, Doug, go to Yahoo Finance, type in the company name, and go to statistics and tell me what the float is and if there's any insider or institutional ownership. And all of you guys at home, we're going to take a 2-second pause. I would encourage you right now to do it because it is a step that you really need to do, and we'll lean into why these numbers are so important as we keep moving along. But you need to take a moment to look. Look before you leap. Have a good idea. Do they have cash? Do they have debt? Are they growing year over year, quarter over quarter? What's the float look like? Do any of the insiders own it? That's a big key. If there's heavy institutional ownership or insider ownership, that's always a good thing. And how many shares do they have outstanding, versus also what the float is?
That's not what I asked for.
You there, Doug?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. What's the go to
It didn't,
statistics?
it didn't come up. Hold on.
Okay.
Keep sending me to cyber something or other. Here we go. Okay, stop. Oh, spinning. I'm having your problem.
Spinning.
Yeah, this page is not responding. Come on.
Okay. Let me see if I can see it. Because I've got it up. So let's see here. OPFI. It's that storm we probably have coming through, messing with stuff. I've got operating margin profitability 51%, return on assets about 16, return on equity 43. We got revenue of 305 million, quarterly revenue year over year 56%, which is good. Cash about 58 million, debt 300 million. Why do they have so much debt? That would be, they have 5 times plus the debt. Maybe they had to incur a bunch of debt when they started to get themselves together. I don't know. Um, and the reason why I say that, you guys, is if you have a lot of debt, um, possibly you may need to do an offering to pay down some of that debt, some additional financing. What kind of debt is it? Do they owe, you know, certain investors where the money's going to be coming due at a certain time? What is the debt? And right now, I'm not going to lean into the debt because we can research it and figure out what the debt's all about. The float, I like it. It's 25 million roughly on the float. The float is how many, in this case, of these things are out there? How many shares of Crystal Light are being bandied about to the public? So if I have 25 million of these out here, but the volume is the average 10-day volume is 1.33. I don't know how quickly we can or cannot move, but we want to take a look at insiders and institutional ownership. So 7% insiders and 46% institutions. If the insiders are holding, their shares may or may not be locked up for a certain period of time. If they are holding, because this company hasn't been around for forever, because when I put in monthly, can you see my screen, Doug?
I can.
Is it Thinkorswim?
It is.
Okay, so this is where it starts, right here. September of 2023 is when they went public. So they haven't been around for forever. So the lockup period for insiders when they're starting a new company, sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's more than a year, sometimes it's I don't know what the specifics were of the folks who who are insiders. And then the institutional folks, they own a chunk of it. So of the 24 million shares, 25 million shares to be bandied about, it looks like institutions own almost half of that. And then so for me, it's like, well, if they own half of it, are they actively trading it? They may or may not be, depending on, their mutual fund or their private money management, all the rest of that stuff. Um, but then I look at what's the volume. If we'll say for giggles, they're not trading it, the institutions, and there are truly then maybe more like 12 million truly available shares, and one of those shares or 1 million shares on the average daily volume represents, or really about 1.3, represents about 10% of the float that's being bandied about. You have an opportunity for a stock to move. The greater amount of volume you have versus the amount of what the float is, because there's only so many of these little crystal lights out here, and there's a lot of volume of folks trying to buy and sell it, you have an opportunity for the stock to move. This is a point, again, that cannot be lost on you if you're trying to buy companies that have an opportunity through volatility for it to actually get some movement where you can make some money. Does that make sense?
It does.
Volume versus the float. So in this case, going way back to the end of 2024, you can see that they were in a what? Resistance was right here, hit its head, came down, consolidated, hit its head. We had a couple of three markers, one, two, three, and then eventually four. And if this hits your radar, you would have been like, well, if we break through this 440 range, I might buy because now we're breaking out. And winner, winner, chicken dinner, we start to break out from the 440. If you buy 5% above the resistance level, in this case, we'll say it was 440, 5% is 22. So 462, if you bought it roughly at 460. Hell, that was right here. We call this, we'll call breakout, we'll call resistance, back that up, not 440. Resistance 465, we'll call it 4.65 to 105% is 479, 5% above resistance. If you bought it right in here somewhere, 479, wherever that is, can't get to it, right around here, just above here, 5% above resistance, you would be cooking with oil 4 months later. Big. Hold on, let me let this cat out. Ugh. Cat was trapped in the office. If you bought the breakout, you would be cooking with oil. So listen, this is important for you guys to make money. Focus on buying breakouts. Don't focus on buying stocks that have already broken out. Focus on buying the ones that are breaking out. They're just now breaking out. Put your alerts there because you want to buy direct moves. The reason that I was able to go from some money to a healthy amount of money is because I focused on a few key strategies. Did I do a bunch of stuff? Sure. But when you're new to moving money or at least trading and you want to move your account faster, focus on this right here. Focus on the breakout. 5% above resistance with good volume. Had a bit of a volume spike here. Also, if you said, okay, Eugene, I get your breakout thing, it's a direct move, etc. But if you liked stocks that pull back, guess what? Right here was starting to tell you stochastics was starting to turn up from below the blue line. And we're starting to cross, we're heading right towards it. You could have said, okay, stock ran up, it pulled back. Stochastics is steamrolling towards the purple line. It's probably a decent time to buy it. And then we went through it right here in the month of May. If you said stochastics is trying to indicate that this stock's about ready to turn from the bottom up, and if I bought it in May at whatever, somewhere pushing the close was 298, somewhere pushing $3, 275 to $3, you're in good shape 6 months later. You've more than doubled your money, so these indicators will help you a great deal. But focus on this. If I could tell you anything, focus on buying breakouts. It's the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest way to make money. So then we can see here, uptrend here, going out. Then the uptrend was more pronounced in here. And so if I owned OPFI, I would be looking for a pullback. This is the month we're in because we're looking at a monthly chart. If this month of July pulls back to here, 1083, I may be more inclined to think, maybe I would add some more, especially if I bought it up here. So up here, OPFI is double topping. We topped, we topped, we topped, we topped. So if I bought it up here, I would either A, sell it and regroup, especially if I'm only going to lose a couple of bucks, and then wait to see if we break out, right? If we break out from this closing high of 13.99, or we pull back this month to about 10.80. So I've already got my alerts there. Alert me if this stock trades at or below 11.62 and 10.89 in that range. And then I would love it. I'm going to put love. I'll go over a month in case something negative happens to these guys, because this is a month, right? If I go to the next dotted lines, I know the month is right here in the middle. And I know this is my uptrend right here, major one from a long time ago, going way back. Next month, August, if this stock comes down to anywhere pushing 8, I'm going to love it. And I'm sure I'm going to buy it. Create an alert if this stock trades at or below 837. And I'm going to put a quick note to myself, LOVE 850, we'll say, and below. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And I don't have to look at it anymore. Makes sense on this monthly. You can see we've topped. Big pictures like we've topped. Next rung down. Well, we ran up, we went down. We're looking at a weekly. We ran back up. We've topped here, we topped here, we topped here. We're still in an uptrend here. Remember, we're different lines now, so don't get confused by all the lines. We're about like so. This corner, extend my line out. Look how we still held here a few weeks ago. Still held 2 weeks ago. Still held last week. So here's our next candle here, Doug, and you guys watching at home. If we come down to 1304, I might think about buying. I might think about adding, but I might have a very tight stop right below that. I'll probably do like 13. And if I'm already in it, that's a different story, but 1304 times 0.98 is 1278. I might say my stop loss is at 1278. So if I put $1,000 in it, I only lose 2%. I won't even miss the 2%, right? Because that's like $20 or something, right? Isn't that right? Yes. Yes. 2%. Yeah, $20. So I don't miss that, but I protected the money from it spinning on down here a few weeks from now to 1057. Now it's this horse a different color. Now you're down 25% on your money versus only being down $20. Does that make sense?
100%.
100%. Daily look. It's about the same as the weekly. Stochastics is trying to indicate maybe a turn, but we're not bottom up. Bottom up, look, perfect example. Look at stochastics. Let me make this bigger. Stochastics, right there. See how histogram is a trend following indicator. Stock's going down, so too is histogram, unless there is what? a bullish divergence. Stocks going down, histogram going down, but a trend leading indicator helping you catch a turn below the blue line right here, winner, winner, chicken dinner. That was the week of June 17th. Stochastic had crossed over. It's telling you, hey, buddy, we're probably going to get the turn. And what also helped you was, right here. This was what? We ran up, support, support, support. Ran up a little bit, support, support. Ran up, train left the station, started to make its way up, started to come back down. Anywhere near here would have been support. Then you also had, I don't know, there had to be some sort of news right here on this day, 6/12. Let's go 6/12. Got to be some news. Yep. Initiates equal weight with 1450 price target. So 612, that feels like to me whatever was going on here, which was, hopefully you guys are following this. I know there are different lines. If I'm looking at the daily, wasn't this the uptrend?
Mhm.
And we started to go through it. Whatever was going on here, some selling, some readjusting, and all of a sudden, as this thing starts to fall kind of hard, Stevens comes out and says, hey, I'm losing money or whatever. I'm trying to stabilize it. Hey, I've got an equal weight on it. Didn't say overweight. Equal weight is also like, I didn't say underweight and I didn't say overweight. I'm just kind of lukewarm on it. I'm equal weight. And that probably didn't help it as much either with that little news of equal weight. And it said price target of 1450. Well, we're starting to come down and you can't save it as we're starting to break through support. And then, as we start to come down the next 3 days, we're getting closer to other uptrend lines because, these are weekly and monthly lines on here and you can label them. But your winner, winner, chicken dinner was your stochastics telling you, hey, buddy, you paying attention? This thing's probably going to turn. And if you paid attention to it, you saw that, in the 11s within 4 days, you were already over 14. You made 30% on your money in 4 days. And that is how you make a crap ton of money. If you get this down, what I am telling you, and you do not check the boxes, you will make money. If you don't check the boxes, you will wonder, well, why isn't any of this working? Because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so here we are again, looking at a candle. This candle should tell you that, hey, we were at a low of 1313. We closed the day at the high of the day almost. The high was 1373, the close was 1372. So it tells you that there was a bit of strength on this day, that we powered off the bottom. We broke through this bit of a downtrend that's in here. We flattened out in here. And so we're trying to see if we're going to move higher. Thing I don't like about it is you have a bit of a bearish convergence going on here. Stock is going up, but histogram is going down on the daily. So it's telling you, the ice is melting under your feet. But let's take a look at the bigger time frame for a bigger perspective. Weekly going down, histogram, top down stochastics crossed over the purple, which is not a good thing. Double topped in here, top, 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 all in here. But the saving grace for next week, candle right here, might be that we might hold support around 1303. So if I owned it, I might be looking to have an open order around 1303. And if it cracked through 1303, again, I might be 1303 times 0.98, you guys, which is a 2% loss. 1277 might be my stop loss, and I might need to reevaluate. So if I bought it at whatever, 1350, and the stock starts to come down next week, and we don't hold 1303, and I have a stop loss order at 1276, I lose from 1350 all the way down to 1276. So 1276 minus, we'll say you bought it at 1350, is a 73-cent drop. 73 cents into the 1350. Yeah, you lose 5.5% on your money. Still manageable. If you had $1,000 times 5% is whatever that is, $50. So doable, but it is better for you to take the loss quicker than stand there like a deer in the middle of the highway about ready to get hit by an 18 wheeler because you failed to move. So, because if you don't move and you don't hold the line with this uptrend and you don't put a 2% stop loss in here, your next stop is probably down here low to mid tens. And that will hurt more because now you're talking a 25% loss and now you've lost $250 versus just $50. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. All right. Moving on to the next one. Moving on to the next one. Let's see here. We'll do we'll go a little faster this time. Game. Clearly, I see we're in a channel. Just right. Everybody sees this. If you guys can't see this yet, I'm gonna need you to do a little homework, a little bit of work. Channel, right? You can clearly see we're in a channel. Bottom part, and my lines are a little crooked. I'm just putting them up here real quick. Bottom part's about right in there. We're in this channel. We got a volume spike here last week. We got a gap right here. The buy point was really right. This line is right in here.
You're on the 5 day. What are you on right now?
A weekly chart. You on the
You're
weekly?
okay.
You see my screen?
I can see screen. I just
Right
want to
here is,
match yours to mine. Mine
yeah,
to yours.
yeah. Weekly right here. Downtrend within the channel. Um, we'll call the resistance area right here for this week, roughly 75. You guys should do this at home. 0.75 times 100 and 0.75 times 105% is about 79 cents. So the buy point, if closing this time frame, would have been 79 cents on the weekly. But the stock opened the week at 86, then pulled back to 82, which of course is not 79. So they're already above the breakout area. And you already saw that there was good volume coming in, so something was going on this week to launch Ethereum native yield strategy as part of a treasury initiative. That's the hot thing right now. It's treasury initiatives and blah, 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 and Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the rest of it. So if we lean into the hourly, let's take a look at the hourly on the other day. It opened the week at 82. So let's go back. How many days did we have last week? There's Monday. So we opened 7 o'clock. You could have bought it right here. Yep. We're looking at an hourly chart. We opened at 0.818, so 82 cents. And by the 10 o'clock hour, this is 6:30. Okay, so this is June 30th. So news on June 30th was company announced it's entered into an at the market sales agreement to sell 9.2 million shares of their company, but it doesn't say, let me see, to offer SEC filing. It doesn't say the amount, the dollar amount. So anyway, so you knew there was going to be an offering, but I don't see any details. Typically, okay, let's see here. Nope, still don't see it. You knew there's going to be an offering, but you didn't have any sort of pricing. So, however, the traders took this announcement during this hour, they liked it enough, and they ran it up. And you see, we were in a bit of this uptrend. If you were buying, say, pre-market, bit of this uptrend in here. Then Tuesday morning in the 8 o'clock hour, that was 7-1. They had some more news, okay, to launch Ethereum native yield strategy, yada, yada, yada. So that was the Ethereum news, and they ran that from an open of 93. They ran it to $1.17. So whatever that is, 20 something percent on your money. But you can see they quickly sold it off in that hour. So what that tells you is you gave me some news. You tickled my fancy, if you will, with the Ethereum sort of hot sort of take that all these companies are doing here lately. But we quickly sold that off, and we told you that, your news is par for the course at this point. And we sold that off quite quickly, and the stock came on down even more. But and then it found itself again back in this range that it's in. And, you could buy in the range where we started to make the turn here at 85, and you could have sold it if we came back up here to 92 and just start skimming, if you will, quick little hitters, 5%, 6%, 8%, whatever, and you're selling it. So we're in this range. If we came anywhere near low 80s, you might have been a buyer, and then we spun up to 92, 93, and you're a seller. We held the line, we went back down. And now we're flirting with trying to kind of break out of this range. So this particular opportunity is a bit unclear. We don't know what the shares are being sold at from a pricing standpoint. And why that matters is if you close the day, the other day, at say 75 cents, I can't remember exactly what it was. If they come and do price and offering, and they say we're selling 10 million shares at 20 cents to Doug Schultz and company over here, what do you think that's going to do to the stock price? Typically, it's going to lower it depending on how many shares are being offered. How is it really dilutive? Is it really going to overly hurt shareholder equity? And all of these terms, I know you've heard a lot of them, but it's putting together the moving pieces in your mind. All of you guys that are new, trust me, just stay with me, listen, because in 60 days, all of this, you'll be like, I understand what he's saying. So right now, it may seem like Greek because there's some moving parts in here. So if we look at game, because we can still see game, right? Doug?
Yes, we can.
Yes. We see game. What do we see here? What is this line, Doug, that I am drawing?
That's resistance.
Yes, sir. It is resistance. And this line here, it's about probably like that is called what? Called what?
Uh, that's the I was going to say base, but it's not the base.
S support.
Support.
Yes, base would work if that's what you want to give it, but in the financial world, so say support, so folks will know what you're talking about, and you know exactly when you see it in print or someone talking about it, support. And so we were in a, what is this to this? This thing that,
Channel.
yes, we're in a channel or a trading range. We're range bound or in a channel. And so, Doug, as the stock starts to move up from this bottom here, and we've got this uptrend thing going on, and then let's actually look at this line here. It's kind of holding a perfect line. It's about like so. Let's make this bigger. You know we're in a range. We had a big dip for whatever reason. We were an uptrend, downtrend, uptrend, downtrend. But what are we doing? We are making higher lows. Low, higher low, higher low. We skirted it a bit, regrouped, gap up near doji, right? Long wick, skinny body
Mhm.
represents what? Indecision. Not sure where we want to go up or down. You can clearly see there's a fight between the bulls and the bears. Here we clearly see the bulls are in control, right? Big giant green candle. Here we can clearly see the bears are in control, and we close towards the bottom of the range. And we were in a downtrend. Downtrend, then we channeled and consolidated in here for a number of days. Then we got the whatever this news was on the 30th again. And then here was our July 1st Ethereum news, which they're like, because this news they weren't too happy about. They were lukewarm on it. And then you give me the Ethereum news, and we're still like, I don't know. But we're still kind of holding in there. We haven't broken this 82-cent bottom. And then we're gently trying to work our way up. And then we've got this decent green candle here. And then we've got a little bit of a pullback, but we can see that we've got this little mini sort of uptrend going, right? The last 4 days. And so we are approaching what yours truly calls a pea pot moment. We are running out of space. Here is the overhead resistance. Here's where the next candle goes on Monday. Here's where the next one goes on Tuesday. By Wednesday, you're either going to need to pee or get off the pot. I apologize. I can't think of anything else. Pee or get off the pot. So you're either going to need to go up and break resistance, or you're going to go down and break this mini 4 to 6 day uptrend. And if you do that, where's the next stop coming down? Weekly. It's probably, yeah, if I kind of do really bottom to bottom, not a big bottom of a wick fan, but it's probably somewhere like so in here. Somewhere like so in here. So we're looking at a weekly chart. Here's next week's candle. If the stock spins on down to about 77, I would like it a lot more if I could get it at 77. And I'm going to put a note, and I'm going to say, I like it, but I don't love it. I like it at 77. 77 SPT for support. And I like it better, Doug, and all of you guys listening, if we're breaking out. It's an easier play. If it's at 77 and you have this uptrend in here within the channel, you still could roll on down to the bottom of the channel around 65. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because we've been in this channel and I like it, but I don't love it because we still may be going lower. But I like it better if we're actually buying it higher than where I could buy it, which is breaking out. So the breakout is probably, if I really lean into my lines, it's probably more like so, right? See all this congestion where we kind of top down in here? It's probably more like this 90. Here's the week we'll be in, this 91 range, 92 range. 105% of 92 is about whatever that is, 96-ish. I like it a lot better if we're printing 96. So alert me if this stock trades at or above 96, and I like it better. Oh, I need to put an alert in on the 77 line. So when you're at work, you guys, you're busy, you've got these alerts going off, you won't, especially if you don't have too many of them, then that'll help you trade. So I'm getting it if it goes above towards the breakout 96 plus, and I'm getting the alert if it pulls back to support, but I recognize that the stock could spin on down. I'll say I love it at 67-ish. Love at 67. And I'm going to put an alert below 70. Alert me if the stock trades. And I won't see all of my alerts because I got too many alerts going on, but some of the ones I'll see, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Hopefully that makes sense because that's where that trade is. So, if you bought it at whatever, say 85-ish, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to buy it at 77 with a roughly 10% pullback on the money that I've already spent? And that is why we buy stuff in waves. We don't like, hey, I'm going to give it $5,000 right here unless you got plans to buy it again. Because you're in no man's land at 85. If you bought it right around here, you bought part of this last week's bump. So, because we could go down, but we could go up. Volume precedes price. We've got a nice volume spike. Did we find out what the float was like? So game, Let's take a look at the floaty float game. Let's take a look at some of the fundamentals. And if this is not showing up on your screen at home, don't worry about it. I need you to look it up. Go to Yahoo Finance, click on statistics. This is your homework, and look at what game looks like. So game, Game, profit margins are abysmal at the moment. Operating margins, they're all negative. Return on assets are negative. Return on equity, super negative. They do have 100 million in revenue. Quarterly revenue growth year over year is modest. Balance sheet, they got about 5 million in cash, 20 million in debt. So they got 4 times the amount of debt, which may not mean too much, depending what industry they're in. The float is 31. Insiders own 36% of the float. And there is some institutional ownership at 7. Not a ton of volume. 764,000 shares is the average 10-day volume compared to the float. So for it to have a $5 million week, 5 million share trading week, let's look at historical data. Historical data will show you the volume. Guys, as I go through this, don't make it harder than what it really is. I'm just looking at volume, trying to get an idea of what the volume is like compared to the float. Volume for the third was 340,000, 790 the day before, 2 million a day before, and about 2.5 million a day before that. So volume really kind of waned. Doesn't mean a whole lot in this case because we did have an overall volume spike for the week. Yeah, so not too bad. I just like it better if we're breaking out, or I like it better if we're pulling back. So, if you're up a little bit on it, just be mindful of your stops. If you're in the green, make sure you save the green. Save the green. And there are certainly ways to do that with trailing stop losses and all the rest of that stuff. So that's game. Don't love it, don't like it. We're somewhere in the middle, but big picture monthly, that is a little bit more promising. Let's clear that out. Clear drawing set. Still got my alerts in there. Big picture. You can see we're in this channel. We dropped down. We started to make our way up. We hit our head. We went sideways. You see over the last 4 months with a THS, that we are putting in higher lows on an uptrend. We are in the P-pot month. Overhead resistance is right in here. You're going to need to pee or get off the pot this month. So from a planning standpoint, if you own it, this is the month you're going to need to, it has to figure out what it's doing. You're either going to go through resistance or we get quickly next month. There's no more room to hold this uptrend. Next month is right here. You could go sideways possibly for a second. That's probably not going to bode well if you go through this sort of apex right here. You might roll over. So be very mindful of that. If you own GAME, think about big picture, the wave. The wave is up. Can I find the tide that goes against the wave? Big picture, we're up. The tide that went against the wave was right here, this downtrend. That would have been right in here at 74. Does that make sense? The big picture, because we're monthly. 1, 2, 3, 4 is a month. 1, 2, 3, 4 is a month. So the big picture, we were and have been going up. I'm trying to find the tide, that pullback like here, that goes against the big picture, which is up. So that pullback to support, that's when we wanted to buy it. And then within the minutia, the ripple that goes in the direction of the wave in here where we're like, the hourly looks like we're going to break out in the direction of the bigger picture, which is up. Another really good example of the the tide that goes against the wave, which is the big picture, which is going up. So if you own it, Peapot sort of month for you. Now, last one we're going to do because we've been on a hot second and your brains probably can only take so much. BTBT, I'll load this video as well because we're recording. Doug, walk me through what I'm looking at on the monthly.
It's in a channel,
It is.
but it had a little breakout last week.
Uh-huh. Right here. So what is this? I am making lower or higher lows,
Higher lows.
right? So I want to make sure you get the lingo. So we're making higher lows. We're in a channel. You saw the last time we're in this big giant channel. Down, bottom of the channel is here. I could be buying. Comes back up. Month, 2 months later, sell it. Back down. You're like, whatever, we're gonna keep doing this. I'll buy it. 3 months later, we're back up. I sell it. Back down, back up. I just keep doing this. Back down, whatever. You guys are stupid. I'll buy it again at 167. Now we're heading back up, but we're not even halfway through the channel, right? As we
Hmm.
draw a line in the middle, back down, back up. So we've had this bit of a volume spike down in here. We want to see, was there any news going on? Here's the old Ethereum hot word of the day. Popular, yep, gains popularity as Bit Digital does what? Raises $163 million. Let's lean into that. What does that say? You guys at home, take a look. Look at the news. Raised approximately 163 million through an underwritten share offering with full exercise of underwriters' option enabling the company to launch an Ethereum treasury initiative. And that was pretty much it. They go into the other stocks that have had similar things. BMNR, you guys, was a crazy stock. It went from like $4 to $153 in 4 days. I'm so sad I missed that. Oh my, it is worth it is worth pulling up BMNR. If you spent $5,000 and you went on vacation and forgot that you spent $5,000 right here in this breakout and it opened at 15, it went to 161. $5,000 divided by 15. You bought this gap up. Say you could sell it at 150. 5,000, good Lord, 10 times the money. $50,000 4 days later. I just need a moment by myself. This is a beautiful, it's a beautiful 10 times the money in 4 days. I know I've had some of that in my history, but not lately because I haven't been doing as much lately. But gosh, like I need, because I'm not getting back to really crazy trading until the end of this month. I'm just kind of slowly ramping up. But that is tearful. That is beautiful. The share structure is probably amazing. Okay, anyway, sorry I had a moment there. BTBT. All right, Doug. So we were looking at the monthly. You said we were in a channel. We started to raise up. We're not even halfway through the channel. We've got the hot button, blah, 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 Ethereum thing. What I would want to know is what's the share structure look like? Is there a chance for a BMNR sort of run, which would be amazing? BTBT. Statistics. Because the only way you can do what BMNR did is with a low float and crazy volume. Dun, dun, dun. BTBT, looking it up at home, you guys see profit margins horrible, operating margins are horrible, return on assets, return on equity, it's all horrible. Quarterly revenue year over year is horrible. They got $100 million roughly in revenue. You got 57 million in cash, 14 in debt. They got 200 million plus on the float. Very little insider ownership, but institutions own 26% of it. which is a healthy amount. But what's the volume look like? Volume's pretty good. Because if we say of the 206 million shares on the float, and 26% of those shares are owned by institutions. So we'll say 206 times 0.74, which takes out the 26%. We have 152 million on the float to say that's what's really out there. And of that 152 apples or crystal light packs that's being bandied about, 47 million shares is over the last 10 days have been exchanging hands. 47 into 152, that's 31% of the float that is being moved on a daily basis. So that gives you an opportunity to get movement on your stock. So monthly, we look okay, nothing to write home about, but we're moving in the right direction. Weekly, Doug, can you still see the chart?
I can.
Weekly, we look really good. Weekly, remember we only had 4 days. This is what is called a bullish engulfing. This engulfs all of the three previous days with GV or good volume, and we powered to the very top of the range. The high was 294, the close was 294. We had 273 million shares that traded this week. The average for 10 days was 46, 47 million. But last week, we traded the entire float, changed over. We turned it over. So this, of all of the stocks we've looked at so far, this one has the most powerful story. And we've taken out this bit of resistance towards the top right in here. Notice I don't use these two top ones. This is what's called a rounding top. Up, 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 like a roller coaster, tick, 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 starting to come down, and support is right here. See this right here?
Mm-hmm.
Support is right in here. So, and that's exactly where we stopped around 209. Very strong look here. After hours, we were up 303 on the bid, 305 on the ask. Now let's drop down to the daily. Remember, this is the monthly channel we're in here, resistance, here, support. Here's that halfway mark that I put in there. Here for the last 6 days, we're barely even curving. We're going straight up. It's like parabolic up. If I were looking to add on a pullback, it's probably somewhere 249-ish. This consolidation resistance in here and just carry that across. It is about, and with this consolidation, it might be pushing 250 with the adjustments in here. And then if I leaned into it some more and I said, well, let's take a look from a Fibonacci standpoint from the bottom of a run. Fibonacci helps you understand the percentages of pullbacks from a run or the vice versa on the way up. So if I take it from the bottom up, if this is 0, this is 23, there are percentages that all of this stuff calculates. So Fibonacci retracement, it's called a Fibonacci retracement. If it this is our next day, Monday, tomorrow. If we started to pull back, where would I look to buy it? I like corners. Boom. And it's about like so for the first one, and the second one where we really expedite the buying, the uptrend is like so. So this is tomorrow's candle. If tomorrow's candle, the news is crappy, the markets are down, Ethereum's down, Bitcoin's down, and the world's coming to an end tomorrow. 255 would be my first buy point, and I'm going to go ahead and mark it. And this will actually go on my list. I may end up buying this one tomorrow, maybe. Create an alert. 255. Alert me if this stock trades at or below 255 to marry up to this pullback. Second one would be, oh, well, if we really drop down to about 234, so I'm going to put I like a lot at 234. Um, SPT, which I already know what it means. I'm just saying that for you guys. Um, so I like it a lot. If we pulled back to 234, I like it a lot. I should put I love it at 234. And then the hourly, we really want to lean into the hourly. Again, if we were getting a pullback, a 24% pullback, a 38% pullback, a 50% pullback, what does that represent if I'm looking at a 50% pullback? 50% pullback takes me to 242. I said I really liked it. Where? 234?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if I get a healthy pullback from the run up and I can get a 50% pullback from my run from the bottom, oh, that becomes very appealing because not everybody is selling. Folks who bought it way back, they're like, well, man, I just lost 50% of my gain because it pulled back. And all the folks that bought it up here, they're still hanging in there. Some of them, and if it pulls back to here, they may or may not be selling. But on the hourly, we are up against a bit of a top. See, we topped here. That was at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, what would that tell me, Doug? Well, that was at 4 o'clock in the morning. Who the hell's trading at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? So whenever that news came out and I look at the volume, I'm like, all right, well, someone was buying, but it still was at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, then we pulled back to a support range. And then this is 8 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd. And then here's your 9 o'clock hour when the market opened at 9:30. And the stock since then, we can clearly see has been in an uptrend, right?
Hmm.
Right? We're looking good here. But we know how much weight do we give this 4 and 5 o'clock hour where we stopped? I don't know. Folks ran it up, they sold it, off all the way back to where it started from. You can see that right here. And then they weighed it. This could be market makers and folks running stuff up, taking their money, moving shares, change, between market makers and all the rest of it. And folks who got caught in the run up, other folks sold it off and they started right back where we started from at 8 o'clock to reset everybody. Retailers are waking up, they're about ready to go to work, they're checking stocks, and they're like, don't worry, you guys, we're going to reset the whole thing. And they took it all the way right back to where we started from. And then, so you guys ready? Because they're in the business of creating a market and making money, changing shares and all of this. That's their business. Here we go. You guys ready? Yep. Retailers, all the folks that like to run stuff up, we're ready. And they started running this thing hour after hour. They ran it up. So, BTBT, because of the space that it is trying to be in, um, did they get $163 million? What was their thing? No. Announces full exercise. So they got a full exercise of the underwriting, which was exercise their option to purchase an additional 11 million shares. They got net proceeds of 21 million. Exercise thing's going to close on the 1st. Yeah, I remember 163. What you'll find, you guys, is the more you do this, the more you just remember stuff. You can ask me something happened a year ago, and I'll be like, was that the thing where they raised 163 million shares? 160, it's weird. You just start remembering numbers and stories and what happened. I know this stuff better than I know my own children's name. I'll be like, what's your name? Yeah, Kennedy. That's right. Um, so yeah, that's that. So they had an offering. They raised a bunch of money. They want to take the money. They want to put it in Ethereum. They're in a hot space. It's all the rage. It's all about, you could see the Trumps and their crypto business. It is huge. You see that you had eventually speculation about crypto and all of that sort of thing to regulation is where we're at now. to full adoption. It is all coming. And playing in that space, whether you play the space through stocks or you play the space through literally crypto and their names, it is a space you should be participating in. At the moment, I don't do the crypto, I do only the stocks, but clearly the train is starting to leave the station. So another last look and we'll get off. Downtrend, boom, resistance, bullish engulfing, big bullish engulfing. Monthly, what is the monthly we're talking about is the wave. The wave for the monthly has been up. We were at a bottom, top side of that. If we flow up to the top side, that's 449, 450 from $3.50 into threes, obviously 50% on your money from here because they've done that multiple times. Will you have to wait a few months to get it? I don't know. Here it took you 3 months. Once it's broke out, took you 2 months. Once we started turning up, it took 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months to get 50%. Bottom, starting to go up 1, 2, 3. You know, if you say to yourself, I can wait 3 months to get 50% of my money from here, then you should give it some more money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know how much folks have given it. If you've given it five, hell, you might say, I'm going to give it another five. Because if I can make 5,000 on 10,000, I'll take that. And it takes me only 2, 3 more months to get it. We'll do that all day long. So that's $2,500 a month extra.
Yeah.
Of the ones we went over, we won't go over any more. We went through four. We're going to end this. I'm going to stop. The one I like the most is BTBT because it's a catalyst driven sort of opportunity.